Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Now, Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev is meeting U.S. officials from the Trump administration ahead of a critical oil sanctions deadline, as Ukraine diplomacy increasingly collides with global energy shocks driven by the Middle East crisis. Now, at the same time, Russia's announcement of a short Orthodox Easter ceasefire comes after it rejected an earlier proposal by President Zelensky. We'll now talk about the latest with our guest, Kirill Rudik, Ukrainian MP from the Voice party. Good to have you with us here.
Hello, Sascha, and thank you so much for having me.
So let's go over to the United States first off. We have this special envoy in the United States, likely meeting potentially even with Donald Trump. Do you think that there's any kind of chance that he's trying to get an extension on that oil waiver? Will this happen? Do you see any kind of tangibles coming out of that meeting?
Obviously, that is something that the Russian side is interested at, and it will be a decision of President Trump's administration. But we need to be clear, and we are delivering our message to our colleagues in the administration that pulling up sanctions on Russia will just prolong the war. It will not be a sign for them or a reason for them to stop. It will just add this influx of cash to the war machine to continue. And we really hope that the U.S. administration really understands that. It's, of course, unclear what the decision would be. And right now, both sides will try to persuade our partners there for their side.
Yeah, and we'll come at an interesting time as well with what's going on in the Middle East. But I also want to go back to Ukraine now. We have the announcement, interesting sequence, because you have Orthodox Christmas coming up this weekend on Sunday. Now, President Zelensky proposed this ceasefire, this temporary ceasefire first, this truce. Putin has rejected it. Now Putin says this is something he wants to do. So tell us, first of all, the timing, and even if this goes ahead, how genuine and how realistic is it, given that previous ceasefires and, well, truces have been violated by Russia?
Sascha, right now when we are speaking, and actually at the time when this news came up, the air raid sirens were on and there were some explosions in Kyiv. So for us here, we are happy to hear that there would be a chance that we will not be killed by going to church on Easter. However, there is no guarantee, because main question is, again, if Russia breaks the truce, what would happen then? Nobody will punish them. There would be not United States, not European partners that do more than condemning attacks, potential attacks on Easter, etc. We have seen that so many times. And so we know that the real truce and the really safe holidays Ukraine can only have if we will have enough of the positions and air defense systems to defend ourselves. This is the only way of how the real end of the war can happen and how the real security guarantees would work, of our ability to defend ourselves without anybody approving or disapproving that.
And then also, just share with our viewers, please, Kira, if you could. I mean, this last week, we've seen more strikes. I know in the last 24 hours in and around the region of Kherson. Tell us what that looks like on the ground and the latest there with casualties.
It is indeed terrifying. We have many colleagues and friends in the South region, and they are saying that these terrorist attacks on the peaceful people in Kherson, they intensified a lot. And so for you to imagine, it's basically like a manhunt, because these attacks are happening through the drones. There is a person that is behind this drone that is obviously seeing what is happening, understanding that they are attacking old man on the bicycle who is walking his dog, a couple that is going to the store to buy some food, parents with their children, and just homes of regular people. That is obvious when you're looking again through the drone that there is like no military there. But Russia continue doing that. So they are increasing this so-called kill zone, where people just understand that it is unsafe to live at and that they have to move. This is something that Russia is trying to achieve. actually throughout the front line. And though Kherson is still a living operating city, we see right now that these attacks, they are just absolutely terrifying, and there is no good way of protecting this real life of civilians in the real time by Ukraine's military, because these drones attacks, when they are targeted, they are very hard to intercept.
So, I mean, looking at also what's happened with, you mentioned drones as well. I mean, this has been very much the drone war for both sides, but also it's shown development for the Ukrainians. Give us your take on weapons development a little bit. We've seen also with those recent trips with Zelensky in the Middle East. Is Ukraine developing, let's say, those capabilities now what it needs? Is it being recognized more by other countries in this regard? Tell us briefly about that.
So everybody needs to understand that it's not enough to manufacture an amount of drones to be able to operate them and use them in the war. The critical thing is infrastructure. Critical thing is having your people trained to use them, and having the military commandment understand that using the drones for warfare requires different state of the army, an ability for the soldiers to make some autonomous decisions by themselves. And this is a key thing that we are trying to explain to our partners that we are developing drones with, and that we are sharing our experience with. Obviously, the future of the warfare is with drones, just because of the price of this warfare. And when you're having $50,000 drone attacking you, it just doesn't make any sense when you're using multi-million-dollar weapons to take this down. It can work once, twice, but in the long term, it's just what your enemy wants, to exhaust your stockpiles and to exhaust your financial situation. So moving forward, we are very open to work with everybody who is willing to support Ukraine, and we are doing it with many countries, including Poland.
Yeah, and just also really briefly, finally, I mean, looking also at those strikes we've seen the Ukrainians carry out on various infrastructure, oil depots, as also in the Baltic, Ust-Luga, you name it. Tell us the impact that's going to have on Russia's ability and financial ability also in terms of oil infrastructure.
Oh, it's very simple. Sascha, we have seen that many sanctions that our partners impose on Russia do not actually work. So we are imposing the sanctions that we know how, for Russia to strip them of their ability to make money of their oil reserves, so that they will have less money to purchase and manufacture weapons and attacking us. It's 100% within the rules of the war, and we have the support of our partners to continue doing that.
And just looking also, I mean, we've been so much focused on the Middle East, very much with Iran and the United States. Do you sense in any way that there's a shift now more again towards a focus on Ukraine? Will it receive more attention from the United States? I mean, it's all very much up in the air, but what's your take over the next, after these negotiations in Pakistan?
So the hope is that the peace efforts will continue, but again, we didn't see real results there for a very long time. We hope that there would be some prisoners exchange for the Easter, and that has been announced from Ukrainian officials. But again and again, without the real and proper way of pressuring Russia, there would be no peace, there would be no results. So it comes again of unclear US strategy regarding do they see Russia as an ally? Do they see Russia as an aggressor? Do they acknowledge that they need to put pressure on Russia, or what's going to happen? Ukraine is very open at our position that we are not giving up on territories, we are not giving up on our people, and we should not be allowing the victim of the war to be pressured into ceding anything for potential peace.
All right, so giving us the latest assessment of another week there in Ukraine. Thank you so much for that. Always a pleasure having you with us here. That was Kirill Rudik, a Ukrainian MP and the Voice party leader.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here for more news and commentary, as ever, on TVP World. Goodbye.